Oh my gosh, it's happening. Share your screen with your audience. Not today. Let's see. I'm finally doing it. Holy crap, the universe wants me to tell people things. I thought you had to get like a bajillion subscribers to go live. Um, but the other day I just clicked the button and here I am because I guess it's time to share some things. So if you read the description, when I read all of the health and wellness and mental wellness conditions I suffered from in the first 30 some years of my life, guess my age, I can't recognize myself sometimes. And, I've realized recently there are a lot of my friends that, they're coming up with this ailment or that ailment. And, they just mention it casually. And I'm like, in the back of my head, I'm like, wow, there are like all these really simple things that you might be able to do. And you wouldn't really suffer the same way because there's a lot of stuff that we're not taught about ourselves because we're told that we're supposed to trust authorities and we're supposed to trust people who are smarter than us. But we spend like all day in our entire lives in these bodies. And as someone who's very much interested in actual like freedom, not just like the kind that was defined for me growing up, but like inner freedom and inner peace and the ability to be confident in yourself. So those things, they are available to us all the time. But we're taught not to trust ourselves. And advertising and TV and even most media that we like to consume on Netflix, or sorry, Netflix, it's based on tension and drama and feeling like something's lacking so that you got to go fix it. And what I've come to realize time and again is that life is super simple. Life is super simple. And, I don't suffer. I'm going to pull this list up just in case some people are like not really big caption readers. Like, I used to suffer from regular depressive episodes. Definitely had, the ideations at different parts of my life, especially like when I was first coming out, during breakups. At some point in my life, I developed horrible anxiety and actually did have a few panic attacks, which did not correlate with the same time that my doctor thought that my heart attack that I had was a panic attack. Funny enough, the panic attacks started happening after because, when you think or when you know that you've had a heart attack and then you've got chest pains, even though maybe you just forgot you did some push ups, you're going to panic. And so, anyhow, I used to suffer from really severe ADHD. I don't have anything verging on hyperactivity anymore. And I have all the attention in the world for the things that matter to me. I've had a sports related TBI, like I used to play rugby, and that explains why I was a huge douchebag to some people like junior year of college. Um, Unrelated, I had migraines like from the time I was like a kid throughout my life until the heart attack was like when I was 28, and that was like my wake up call. Like, clearly, the things that I'd known and been doing weren't working. Because right with that heart attack, I had a back injury because my now wife, invited me to Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and I had just taken ciprofloxacin. Don't take that shit if you can avoid it like the plague, because it might ruin all of your tendons and ligaments. So imagine like someone who has also recovered from alcoholism and to a good extent perfectionism as well as people pleasing. Imagine not being able to work all of a sudden. Like literally, like you cannot. I was so distraught, honestly, like distraught, angry, so very deeply angry. Um, And these conditions and these emotional patterns, they all map to somewhere on your body. Like, I have to thank Louise Hay. I didn't put her in the description, but I found some of her work. And, you know, instead of a lot of times when I mention something offhand to someone just to see if they're open to alternative, aka ancestral or, you know, Eastern healing, they'll be like, oh, no. It's not, that's just something, they'll explain it away. But if you're open to it, life can be really simple and a lot cheaper to manage and a lot more I would say easy because it's a lot easier for me to take 20 minutes and cook my lunch and eat it slowly and feel great instead of what I used to do, which was try to optimize and like do things while I was eating and like never really take a full break and, feel like I always had to do stuff. Gosh, let me see what else. Like I had chronic pain, just everything hurt. I remember a period of time, like literally everything I ate hurt. I would have hives. I remember once I ate a pineapple and I got hives all over my body, but this was some years into the healing journey. And I was like, strange. A lot of bad things don't like pineapple. What if I had bad things? And then I ate an entire pineapple again, like I think within a week. Not a single problem. Not a single problem. So let's see. I mean, my parents are both or were both addicted to smoking cigarettes. I don't know if my dad's alive anymore. We reconciled, but he in another country, remarried, different culture, different lifestyles. Mixed families aren't really a thing in his. I think he was 80 something generation. But I don't smoke cigarettes anymore. I don't even use nicotine pouches anymore, and I don't even crave that anymore. Um, like this list just keeps going on and on. It's crazy. Um, but okay, so I ended up here today because I was like eating a pretty not the only thing I ate that could have been heating were like nuts because each food has properties to it. Is it astringent? Is it heating or cooling? Is it bitter? So it stimulates digestion. And I was like feeling all this heat in my face. And I was like, what could this be? And I looked back at my day and, I've been doing my morning pages and evening guidance thanks to The Artist's Way. And I've also been chatting with Claude because Claude doesn't just agree with everything I say like GPT does. But it occurred to me that I was just avoiding going live because I was actually super jazzed about being granted access. Like 2 days ago or like a day ago, I had to like wait 26 hours, odd number. But yeah, I was like, oh, I want to like go to the mall. I had to send my, email to my clients before it was the weekend. And then of course it's Friday after New Year's. No one's looking at their email. Neither am I. But I did it to kind of keep up with speaking because about a week and a half ago I got a cold sore. And cold sores, they can happen with stress. They can happen with sun exposure. I'm using air quotes because the thing that I looked up when I got it last, um, I think I asked Claude, like, what is the psychosomatic or emotional and spiritual cause of a cold sore? And it got me to delve into somehow it went into like my ancestry and how one of my ancestors, famous ancestor, was killed for speaking truth and being very effective. And I was like, oh, this is happening again. Because I've casually mentioned this a few times, but I don't think I've really worked on it because there have been times where I absolutely know that the things that I'm saying are true, but people pleasing, right? Like you don't want to rock someone's entire world and just like egos can be fragile if you haven't done any spiritual practice, right? And you can watch someone's entire world fall apart and they will defend it. Oh, that's my put my hot water bottle and go to bed in bed, but I also made a commitment. So I'm going to pause that. It's been 10 minutes on the live. Um to talk about this stuff because online specifically because I don't have to worry about it being a response to something that someone tells me. I'm also working on just listening to what someone tells me and not having to, tell them that they could fix it. It's also a really tender part of my heart that when people are suffering from something that I actually have overcome, I just wish that they knew because I think the narrative that even I had until like 25, 26, 28 was that like there's no rhyme or reason, like things happen randomly, like I don't really think things happen as randomly as I've been told. And I grew up in an extremely logical left brain model of like living life. Um, my mom wanted me to do something serious, so I did my degree in economics while I was also like TAing for an art class. And here I am now going, oh, the last things for me to do really are like truly enjoy my life. If I think about uh, one of the purposes of living life is to like experience all of it. I've experienced the crappy parts. Like I feel like I've experienced every crappy thing. And somehow I've come out of it, whether it's emotional abuse or just absolute physical disaster, breaking point. And like I still have a good attitude. And I'm not just saying that to be rote. Like it feels good in my heart. And the only things that I seem to have issues with now are like expression and like making stuff and creating. But I also feel like I needed to get this out because like 3 years ago, this list that I have, the reason I still have the list, I couldn't remember the other day when a friend of mine was having an issue, and I was like, oh, I feel like that's familiar because I've addressed that issue um, holistically, and I couldn't remember. Like, I couldn't even remember most of the things that I'd addressed because it's been so long, and I live a different life now. And I remember when I was like in the middle of dealing with the black mold exposure. I thought I was crazy because the only people that were posting about it online that I saw at least were absolutely in the depths of despair and desperation and no hope. And I just want people to know that there is a lot of hope because if you get quiet enough and figure out, what brings you joy, joy will fix you. And if you get quiet, you'll hear things, you'll be guided to things. And I grew up like I came out when I was 13, honey. Like, I had plenty of messages about how the Christians did not like us. So I was angry at God. I got a scholarship for being an atheist. But there is 100% something in you that's also everywhere, that's always been everywhere, that no religion can own. And, I think sometimes something that's really tough for me, I'm just going to get this off my chest because it keeps coming up. Um, I'm doing some financial work to get free in that regard. And I, kind of was like, dip my toe into this 12-step stuff. I dipped it in for Marijuana Anonymous and then realized I had no cravings for it. Ask me more about that process because I quit like 4 other things 1 week apart, and I barely had an issue quitting smoking. And I used to smoke spliffs. So that's mixing tobacco and weed. Really, really hard to quit, or so I thought, until I realized that it didn't need to be hard to quit. Um, but this 12-step stuff, I think it's great for the fellowship, and it's great for sometimes the accountability, and also if you're a verbal processor, I like to write. I like to write more than I verbally process. Like I like to share in spoken word what I've learned and what I've consolidated and what I feel like moves people to take that, next step for themselves. But my processing happens in writing. But for the folks that need it verbally, I think that could be really powerful. Um, but sometimes I have some issues. I have some issues with people coming on there and being like, "I'm gonna, suffer from this forever." And I'm like, "But the evidence in my life says I don't have to suffer anything forever. In fact, if I identify with it, I'm gonna suffer from it longer." But at this point, there are very few things I identify with aside from like I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. And what's funny, I'm shaking my head, so I'm wondering if I should examine that a little bit because that is also something that I heard that I'm repeating. But it's the closest I can get to like, I'm just here to like play and figure out my life now. And I used to think life was about suffering and serving. That, the whole point of like getting ahead was to give back and this like cycle. And when you think about cycles and you get into Eastern philosophies, and that's like cycle is like samsara. It's like getting stuck in like the loop of, don't quote me. Don't quote me. I don't know anything. I'm just saying stuff. And enjoying expressing myself without feeling like I'm bothering anybody. Like my mom was also a projector in human design, something that I'm getting into. And we are very sensitive to other people's energies. And we're not built to work a ton, but we are built to guide and we are built to observe. And maybe that's why I was on 3 different executive boards before I was 25, because people recognize that in me really early. But then like once 25 hit, your frontal lobe hits and you start regulating yourself as an adult. And a lot of that though is like the programming that I got, between public school and private college, like I got this message that I had to like be serious and I had to be respectable and an authority. And when you realize just how little you know and just how little anyone knows, and that's why you've got to figure out and know yourself and actually figure out like the universal laws, which I've actually been obsessed with since I was a child. But like what's actually universal, like water is, I mean, as one of the more universal things you can get, right? You need to drink water. And actually, I'm gonna correct myself. Oh my god, I'm gonna correct myself. It's almost time for bed, y'all, but I promised I would get on this live so that I could feel my body relax and not feel this heat. Um, but water, like, don't trust everybody that's just like, "Oh, drink more water." Like, if you drink water that's chlorinated, that could be shitty for you, depending on how sensitive you are. If you don't eat fruits and vegetables, primarily vegetables, it's really hard to like hang on to that water in your body because it doesn't go in with the minerals that it would naturally have. And like then you jump over to soil quality, hang in there with me, because a lot of our food has been growing in soil that doesn't have the same mineral content. So it's like, oh, how can you make sure that you get the right minerals for you and your constitution? That's why I love Ayurveda so much, is like you can't just go with the health advice you hear that's working like magic wonders. You need to figure out who it's working magic wonders for. And if that person is like you enough to actually take that advice on. I wish someone told me that when I was younger because it would have saved me a lot of trouble. Like it's kind of like don't take advice from someone whose life you do not want. Like that blew me away, like when I first heard it, because I look back at my life and I was like, I've just been doing what like smart people tell me to do because they were smart or worldly. Honey, don't do that. What else? I mean, that's 20 minutes. I feel like that's been really good. I've done the thing. I'm learning not to like overachieve because, I did that in my life and it didn't bring happiness. I'm just gonna start winding down for bed. There might be somebody who actually subscribes and leaves me a message someday. I will look out for you. I'm also going to start answering my friends' questions on this live, or not, maybe not even live, but on my YouTube channel, because when I do give advice, it's quite comprehensive and it can help more than one person. And I realize that maybe my innate extreme dislike, hate of repeating myself has to do with a drive to push me towards actually recording things for people. Last, hopefully, little thought. I've been doing time logging, and I've always loved, tracking what I do in a day. A little bit neurotic at the beginning because it was productivity related, but I noticed that because I had a journal prompt of like every night for a week, I asked myself like, what gave you energy, or delighted you, or were you curious about today? And for a consistent week, it was like anytime I was either, being listened to intently by someone who actually wanted my advice, or I was recording something because it was just bringing me joy, or I was actually expressing myself. I was energized. And the thing I have to watch out for as someone who's got about 3 good hours of like giving energy in a day, is to like chill and not do it so much that I can't rest because I'm too excited. So anyway, thanks for being here, whoever's here. Um, Ask me anything, really. Just give me the more context you give me, the better answer you'll get. And if that means you link me to a private unlisted video somehow, I don't know how to do that yet, or how you would do that yet, you'll get a really good answer. I just ask that, some of it can be shared somehow so that I can help someone else and, not have to repeat myself. Okay. Thanks, y'all.